The pass at Thermopylae was narrow, just wide enough for a few shields across. That's where Leonidas made his stand. 300 Spartans, backs to the cliffs, facing tens of thousands. They weren't fighting to win, they were fighting to buy time. Arrows blotted the sun, spears snapped. Men screamed through broken teeth. And still, they held the line, day after day, against the full weight of the Persian Empire. This is the story of sacrifice without illusion, glory paid in blood. Leonidas didn't expect to survive. He only meant to show the world what dying free looked like. Embark with me on a journey to ancient Sparta, a world where destiny was carved with the sword and tempered in the fires of relentless training. Here, amidst the rugged terrain and the echoes of battles long past, arose Leonidas, a figure forged not from royal privilege but through the crucible of Spartan tradition and necessity. In this formidable city-state, existence was an unyielding test of endurance, a life sculpted by the imperatives of war and clad in the armour of tradition. In Sparta, society was a landscape of rigidity, a place where even the stars seemed to align in formation. Spartan society demanded strength and uniformity. Every child from the moment of birth was judged for survival. Those deemed weak were forsaken, a harsh tribute to the ethos of fortitude. Leonidas, though born a prince, was forged by the same fires as any other child destined for the phalanx. A testament that greatness was earned, not inherited. Growing up in the shadow of his brothers, the third son of King Anaxandridas II was not expected to rule. His early years were cloaked in obscurity, overshadowed by the prestige of his siblings. Yet in this obscurity, Leonidas cultivated patience and resilience, nurturing ambitions that smouldered silently beneath the surface. The throne was not his by birthright, but awaited a different kind of claim through the trials of the agoge. Leonidas's induction into the agoge marked the beginning of his transformation. Here among his peers, stripped of rank, he learned the Spartan way through a relentless routine designed to extract strength and obedience from hardship. The agoge was infamous for its severity. It was not merely education, but a systematic sculpting of body and soul. Leonidas's days were filled with trials. Hunger was a constant companion, teaching lessons in cunning and stealthiness, where stealing was both survival and skill. The consequences of getting caught were not for the act itself, but for the failure to excel. Thus he nurtured a resourceful mind, vital for the strategies that would later define his leadership. In the agoge, endurance wove unbreakable bonds among boys who would become brethren. The shared struggle bred camaraderie, an invaluable asset on the battlefield. Here, Leonidas learned the essence of unity. The strength of a phalanx lay not in individuals, but in the trust among men who moved as one. Leadership, he learned, required more than command. It demanded solidarity, a knowledge gained through joint suffering and mutual respect. As the years within the agoge wore on, they shaped not just his body, but his identity. Every trial endured was sewn into the fabric of Leonidas's being, each one a step towards the leader he was becoming. A leader who would soon stand at the precipices, not just of Spartan society, but of history itself. Emerging from this formative chapter, Leonidas epitomized the spirit of Sparta. His identity was a testament to the city-state's martial legacy, each scar a badge earned through perseverance and tactical acumen. Destiny beckoned, and with the passing of his father and his elder brother's reign cut short, the mantle of kingship fell upon Leonidas. In ascending to the throne, Leonidas understood his role not as an honour, but as a duty. The burden was heavy with the legacy and expectations of a people whose lives were interwoven with the concept of martial excellence. His kingship was not about power, but about the service to Spartan ideals. Leonidas's philosophy as a leader embraced the principles that had sustained him. His reign unfolded as an embodiment of strength coupled with humility. He endeavoured to steer Sparta not from an aloof perch, but among his people, leading by example and supporting his soldiers in their darkest moments. His presence on the battlefield was not merely symbolic, but a binding force of inspiration. Thus, Leonidas stepped beyond the shadow cast by his birth order to become a beacon of Spartan discipline and valour. Through his trials and his leadership, he stood as a living legend, a warrior crowned by necessity, not by succession. His life was an unyielding march toward the moment when he would meet the Persian tide, not as a mere king, but as the embodiment of Spartan fortitude and defiance. As we conclude this chapter, the stage is set for the saga at Thermopylae, where a king chosen by fate and forged by fire would make a stand, etching himself into the collective memory of mankind. This is not merely a history, it is an eternal echo of bravery and sacrifice that whispers through the annals of time, holding fast the legend of Leonidas and his band of 300 true Spartans. Under the unyielding sun of a vast empire, Xerxes emerges from the shadows of his father, Darius the Great. Inheriting not merely a throne, but the ghostly echoes of a decade-old humiliation at Marathon, Xerxes is driven by an intense resolve to avenge Persia's honour. The Battle of Marathon left a scar on Darius, a personal slight that gnawed at his legacy. Now, Xerxes shoulders not only his father's unfulfilled ambitions, but a heightened determination to unite his sprawling realm under a banner of vengeance. In the labyrinthine heart of the Persian Empire, consolidating power demands more than regal presence. Xerxes, by right king of kings, must deftly manage military might and the allegiance of distant satraps overseeing lands from the Indus to the Nile. This quest is as much about reinstating authority as it is about subduing the disparate cultures that make up his dominion. As Xerxes imagines a victorious march through Greece, this conquest promises unity through an imposing display of force. But doubts whisper through the corridors of power. Can such a vast empire truly march in unison toward a single destiny? Preparation unfurls like an epic as Xerxes assembles an army of unprecedented scale. Chroniclers describe his forces as entire nations on the move. Lydians, Medes, Bactrians, each tribe marching to the rhythm of a singular vision. The scope is breathtaking, a testament to Persian might, not simply aimed at conquest but at instilling dread. In an audacious feat, for 7 days and nights, his vast host crosses the Hellespont on a bridge crafted from countless ships connecting Asia to Europe. This act is a resounding statement, proclaiming Persia's unwavering resolve to complete Darius's unfinished dream. Though anticipation hangs thick among the ranks, whispers of Marathon's infamous legacy linger, reminding some of potential peril hidden beneath glory's cloak. The challenge of maintaining such a diverse army is substantial. Logistics of sustaining troops transforms into a masterwork of organisation. Xerxes builds not just a war machine, but a network of cooperation, merging languages, beliefs, and combat practices. Yet this amalgamation, grand in its spectacle, grapples with underlying tensions as soldiers contend with language barriers and differing tactics. Transitioning from the familiar terrains of Asia into Europe, This army feels the weight of its mission, the crossing of the Hellespont symbolizing more than geographical conquest, but a titanic advance into the lands that dare challenge Persian supremacy. Before swords are drawn, Xerxes attempts to sway Greece with a blend of diplomacy and intimidation. Heralds traverse the land, offering a stark choice: submission with peace or resistance with annihilation. Many city-states, daunted by Persia's colossal power, choose submission, offering symbols of their compliance. Yet, amidst this shadow of Persian dominance, not all bow easily. Athens and Sparta, stalwarts of Greek independence, reject the overtures, igniting a fervour of defiance. Xerxes' calculated diplomacy falters against a backdrop of cultural pride and valour, as these cities galvanise a call for resistance against their would-be conquerors. The Greek landscape trembles with anticipation. Cities, weighing the value of freedom against the threat of subjugation, debate alliances and strategies. Athens, still basking in Marathon's victory, becomes a beacon of defiance. But beneath this brave veneer lies a tension of readiness and doubt. With whispers of surrender and cries for defence echoing across the land, the collective psyche is a complex tapestry of fear and hope. Yet in Sparta's sheer determination and Athenian resolve lies a fragile seed of unity, essential for surviving the Persian storm. Despite centuries of rivalry, Athens and Sparta cautiously inch toward a coalition, each aware of the other's strengths and weaknesses. As strategies unfold, defensive plans are debated and oracles consulted, the practical and mystical intertwine in preparation for what lies ahead. Yet mistrust simmers beneath this uneasy alliance. In gathering halls, past grievances and future ambitions clash with present necessity, striving against internal politics as much as external threats. However, an unmistakable urgency for a unified defence drives both cities, their complex dance choreographed by mutual need and shared destiny. Within Athens, Marathon's echo inspires renewed fervour. Veterans recount tales of valour, their legacy reinvigorating martial discipline and naval innovation. This rich history fuels strategic councils, energising youthful enthusiasm with the wisdom of past glories. Yet the pressure to emulate earlier triumphs weighs heavily, urging a cautious blend of nostalgia and readiness as Athens fortifies itself against the coming tide. Meanwhile, Sparta, ever the city of warriors, faces its own internal deliberations. Amongst debates of action versus preservation, the call of duty resounds. Leaders dissect the ramifications of war. Should they stand idle, watching Greece engulfed, or lead the charge as defenders of Hellenic honour? Ultimately, it falls to Leonidas, their king warrior, to embody Spartan resolve, threading the past's nobility with the immediacy of imminent conflict. As battle lines form, Delphi whispers in cryptic tones, its oracle's prophecies mingling with strategy to influence decisions. And behind the scenes, espionage casts shadows, with secret games unfolding amidst military posturing. Information becomes a weapon, subtle yet potent, as subterfuge shapes the battlefield as crucially as any army. In this precarious balance, the Greeks edge closer to Thermopylae, a battleground poised to become legend. Here destiny converges as a chamber of echoes drives them forward, entwining past triumphs with future challenges. As the Persian war machine looms ever larger, so too does the resolve of those who stand, however uneasily, on ancient grounds, ready to face history's oncoming tide. Nestled between imposing mountain cliffs and an unforgiving sea, the pass at Thermopylae became the chosen battlefield, not by mere chance but through Leonidas's calculated strategy. This narrow passage, known as the Hot Gates for its sulphurous hot springs, was a natural bottleneck. Here the terrain itself became an ally, nullifying the Persian advantage in sheer numbers. Amidst geothermal mist and a pungent sulphurous tang filling the air, the stage was set for a legendary confrontation dictated by nature's design. Leonidas knew the geography was more than backdrop. It was an active, strategic participant, constraining Xerxes' colossal army into a singular line. For the Greeks, mastering where to fight was as crucial as when. In preparation, Leonidas didn't stand alone. He summoned the bravest from many Greek city-states, a coalition bound by a cause larger than any single entity, the defence of their way of life. Alongside his 300 Spartans, Thespians, Thebans and Arcadians answered the call. These diverse allies, with their own customs and dialects, converged under a common banner. In rallying this unity amidst entrenched rivalries and political complexities, Leonidas proved not only his tactician's acumen, but a leader's charisma, urging disparate peoples to suspend their differences for survival against an overwhelming threat. It was diplomacy, as much as martial might, that gathered these warriors, facing what they knew could be their last stand. Amid these preparations lay a profound acceptance of fate, transcending mere strategy. The Spartan 300, schooled in the austere agoge from youth, internalized the doctrine of glorious death as the ultimate form of honor. To die in battle wasn't despair, it was a passage to eternal renown. This ethos fortified their decision to hold Thermopylae, not merely to defend, but to transform their stand into a legacy of valor, a testament to indomitable spirit against inexorable doom. On the eve of battle, these warriors embraced their roles as symbols, steeling themselves for the immortal narrative they were about to carve. Each man ready to imprint his courage on an unfolding saga of defiance and enduring pride. Beyond the battlefield, however, Leonidas fought another struggle with words and persuasion, forging critical alliances with steady diplomacy, amidst shadows of towering dread. In courts and guild halls, aristocrats and commoners were swayed by his iron resolve and evocative vision of freedom. Despite the fears of devastation or darker fates that weighed heavily on city-states, his speeches resonated, striking through the fog of anxiety, drawing commitment from fellows willing to cast off former feuds for a shared victory. In this tense atmosphere of political tension and personal uncertainty, Leonidas's unyielding conviction inspired courage in his allies, an unprecedented unity that defied odds and sang of humanity's resilience. To truly grasp the Spartan mindset, one must peer into their daily lives, as stark as they were disciplined. Spartan existence centered around martial prowess, ingrained through disciplined austerity. Family life, deprived of warmth found elsewhere, emphasized producing warriors bound by brotherhood and unyielding stoicism. The agoge tempered Spartans from a young age, training them to silently endure privation and pain. Such rituals became ingrained habits, endowing the Spartan presence at Thermopylae with focus and camaraderie under the stars. Warriors conditioned to eat meagre rations and endure silently brought that same composure into battle, their preparation as much mental as physical, a constant alignment with the ethos of comradeship, duty and pride. As the battle loomed, symbols adorned these warriors. The lambda on their shields, denoting Laconia, signified regional pride, a simple yet profound emblem. Each piece of armour, stylized and formidable, echoed the legacy of Spartan valour, speaking tales of their gods and heroic ancestry. The Spartan appearance was crafted not solely for war but for spectacle, an assertion of their formidable heritage and imminent destiny. Meanwhile, across Persian campfires, tension mounted. Spies reported unsettling observations of the disciplined Greek phalanx, akin to mythical beasts with unbreakable resolve. To the Persians, these Greeks were not mere men but legends, rumoured even among their ranks for their seemingly supernatural defiance. Xerxes, ensconced in imperial opulence, recognised the Greeks presented an unusual challenge. Memories of past Persian missteps whispered caution, while tales spread of Greek resilience. Despite the myriad banners flying under his dominion, an unease lingered with reports of Greeks' indomitable spirit, a caution against presuming easy conquest. Amidst this mortal clash, the spiritual layer held sway. The divine influence of pantheon gods lingered in every act, every omen. In Spartan rites, confidence in Ares and Athena overshadowed prayers for mercy. Each Spartan bore the spirit of divine avatars, challenging fate within the gods' celestial play. Leonidas, believed to carry divine lineage, guided the encounter through prophecy's haze that offered both hope and doubt. Their sacrifices were perhaps a testament in honour to the immortal Olympus, whose eyes they felt upon them, lives woven with destiny's tapestry. Nature also played its silent role. Thermopylae's steadfast landscape stood as a silent witness, its rugged paths a constant challenge. In nature's embrace, Leonidas crafted advantage, his warriors in lockstep with terrain's rhythm. Against the elements, earth and sea, their immutable coalition strained, cast in the monumental theatre Thermopylae provided, a drama webbed with humanity's eternal struggle. As the Greek column entered Thermopylae, serenity amid anticipation fell over them. Before the clash, amidst majestic silence and fleeting life's reflections, they faced their fate undaunted, whispers of past tales guarding their courage. Sharing humour and resolve, they embraced what it meant to face the vastness of history with steel and spirit. Bathed in dusk's light, their unity and purpose bore testament to a legacy meant to echo through the ages, challenging oblivion's shadows. As evening shadows lengthened over Sparta, Leonidas stood in quiet conversation with his wife, Queen Gorgo. This was no routine farewell, but a moment imbued with the heavy silence of shared understanding. In the dim light of their stone home, Gorgo grasped the fate her husband faced. Leonidas, prepared for his grim mission, promised no return. Instead, he acknowledged his likely death, echoing Spartan ideals where glory lies in sacrifice. Gorgo's silent strength reflected this ethos, conveying iron resolve where others might falter. Her faint smile as she uttered the famous Spartan creed, "Come back with your shield or on it," transcended mere words. It embodied a profound union of souls, tied to duty and legacy, a mantra where carrying a shield signified victory, or returning on it meant an honourable death. Leonidas's departure marked a testament to their courage, each glance exchanged with Gorgo, affirming a shared destiny written by the ancients. These 300 Spartans were chosen not by chance, but by their lineage, each having sired a son. This deliberate selection ensured that their bloodline, and thus the Spartan legacy, would live on, binding their immediate destiny to the perpetuity of Sparta's martial traditions. These men were not just warriors, they were vessels of their society's enduring identity, carrying forward traditions even as they faced their end. Their selection symbolized a ritualistic passage, a morbid insurance ensuring the fire of resilience burned in the sons left behind. It revealed a harsh yet pragmatic society, where individual and communal fates interwove seamlessly, portraying Spartan fatalism and glory. Confident in their role within this grand narrative, they marched toward Thermopylae, knowing their offspring would sustain the ideals for which they were prepared to die. On preparing to leave, Leonidas found the Spartan high priest notably silent, offering no blessings before the expedition. This silence carried deep implications in a society where divine favour was sought for every major endeavour. The absence of a blessing suggested an unspoken omen that gods might oppose this venture or see it as the climax of their will. Despite the foreboding, Leonidas and his men marched onward. They understood this silence as yet another layer of destiny, a reminder of the magnitude of their task. The night before leaving, rituals unfolded under darkening skies, each act a solemn preparation as night blanketed Sparta. Warriors gathered to partake in rites that fortified both spirit and body, singing songs of war that mingled pride with poignant awareness. They poured libations for gods and ancestors, every chant a step toward transcending mortality through incomparable bravery. In departing, their focus was not on lament, but on the resolute camaraderie that bound them. Under flickering torchlight, these men in red cloaks whispered farewells and embraced the gravity of the eternal renown that awaited them at dawn's crest. As the warriors wound their way from Sparta, shadows danced across the landscapes. Silent against the approach of dawn, they traversed gravelly paths, the clang of armour echoing their resolve to write one of history's iconic tales. More than weapons, they bore their society's ethos, fortified by rigorous training and the conviction of their cultural heritage. Each step transformed their march into a pilgrimage, a living embodiment of Spartan resolve. Villagers watched in awe, their whispers of reverence following the Spartans like a tangible echo. In facing certain death, these men embodied the ethos of Spartan philosophy, where life was aligned with homeland defence and glory. Their actions spoke louder than declarations, aspiring not just for victory, but for lives entwined with honour. The term honourable death was no abstract idea, but a tangible, desired outcome. Each endeavour, whether in combat or domesticity, served a purpose greater than the individual, reinforcing their society's values with unwavering devotion. As they marched, stories reverberated within the Spartan ranks, tales spun from history's fabric, fortifying the 300 with echoes of valour. These stories, cautionary yet inspirational, recounted fierce warriors, not driven by conquest but by loyalty to their soil. Among these narratives were legends of Marathon, where their forebears stood heroic. Now, as guiding stars for the 300, these legends were etched in their minds, just as critical as the weapons they carried. Approaching Thermopylae, these men understood their mission was not merely a manoeuvre, but the crafting of an eternal monument. Standing against Persia's mighty force, they intended to immortalise Sparta's indomitable spirit. This battle transcended strategic defence, morphing into a testament of existence. Their ultimate sacrifice, though calculated, would seed a legacy of valour written across history. They knew Thermopylae would become synonymous with courage, their story blooming into a defiant resistance against obliteration. On the eve of battle, they gathered around fires, engaging in honest discussions sprinkled with acceptance. Here, among shared light, they forged a brotherhood through candid conversations, voicing unshaken hopes and resolve. As dawn beckoned, they emerged steeled for the fate awaiting them. With each step towards Thermopylae, they etched their path into time, forging a bridge to immortality, a testament of enduring grit and courage. With unwavering resolve, Leonidas and his men embraced their fate, their legacy lighting the path to eternity. As dawn broke over the narrow pass of Thermopylae, the air hung heavy with anticipation, a calm before the storm. The sea breeze whispered tales of past battles, casting an eerie stillness over the Greek forces gathered for their stand. Among them, Leonidas stood resolute, his visage as unyielding as the mountains flanking them. The 300 Spartans, embodiments of bronze-clad discipline, were more than warriors. They were legends in the making, accompanied by their resolute allies, the Thespians and Thebans. Each soldier was acutely aware of the history they were about to write, the silence around them growing intense, a mere prelude to the fury that awaited. In their encampment, warriors engaged in age-old rituals, sharpening spears, adjusting armour, sharing glances heavy with unspoken courage. These acts were woven with purpose, forging a collective consciousness that grasped both the stakes and the broader meaning of their stand. As sunlight crept over the mountains, it cast a stark juxtaposition against the looming mass of Persian soldiers assembling in formidable ranks. This was the calm before the storm, a moment stretching taut with destiny about to unfold. Surrounded by Greece's rugged beauty, each man held his place, resolved yet apprehensive amid nature's deceptive tranquility. Then, with the rising sun, came a distant rumbling, as though the earth itself growled in defiance. The Persian army advanced, a gargantuan force moving as one, a living tide set to crush the steadfast Greek lines. Xerxes, in majestic isolation, observed his troops, a relentless wave threatening to engulf those who dared to challenge his empire's might. The sheer scale of the Persian host was an awe-inspiring spectacle, a living testament to imperial ambition. Despite this impending doom, the Greeks remained steadfast, shields interlocked to form an impenetrable barrier of bronze and sheer willpower. At the front were the Spartans, epitomes of martial prowess, their expressions a study in controlled aggression. To them, this confrontation was a trial anticipated from birth. Spartan mothers bore warriors, not mere sons. As the Persian flood closed in, Greeks prepared for the intimate, brutal dance of war, each man driven by the vision of their leader and personal convictions, ready for a clash destined to reverberate through time. The clash shattered the silence, an explosive symphony of metal upon flesh. Ordered Greek precision collided with the raw force of the Persian horde. Strategy met sheer numbers. Training faced brute mass. The Spartans and their allies fought as one, each shield a stronghold, each spear a deadly lance. The narrow pass transformed into a series of calculated lethal encounters. Rooted firmly on sacred terrain, Greek warriors became extensions of their weaponry, meting out death with practiced regularity. Bodies fell, and the ground drank deep of their sacrifice. Despite their numbers, the Persians were unprepared for such coordinated defence. Each charge met implacability. Every advance met Greek spears, bearing the wrath of a culture honed in battle. Death swept indiscriminately through both ranks, yet the Greeks stood firm, their resolve matched by the polished bronze they bore. Amid screams and clashing steel, history took shape. Each stab, each wound another chisel stroke in the monument they built that day. The phalanx was more than a formation, it was the living heart of Spartan strategy. Beyond a line of defence, it thrived as a sentient entity of bronze and muscle, imbibing war, defying destiny. Every Spartan played a vital role, contributing to an indomitable bastion against overwhelming tides. Like wolves revered in Spartan lore, they operated as a pack, valuing unity over individual glory, a defence that was equally offensive in vigilance. Fear, absorbed into this formation, transformed into fuel that enlivened muscle and spirit. Persian onslaughts rained down, absorbed by the shield wall, setting a rhythm: strike, block, stab, advance. A cadence sculpted by masters. Spartans drew courage not from invulnerability to pain, but from bonds stronger than any blade seeking to break them. Here, in a crucible of fury and valour, the true walls of Thermopylae were built, not of stone, but of flesh and indomitable will. This extraordinary defence was no accident. Spartan warriors were sculpted in the agog, a training regime that forged humans into instruments of war. Rigorous from youth, it stripped them of weakness, crafting invincible warriors. At Thermopylae, its efficacy echoed in every Spartan action. Fear transmuted to resolve, wounds to endurance. Their symbiosis with this brutal regimen manifested in each strike, each parry, a system's legacy guiding calculated fury. This day, the Spartan warriors vividly demonstrated they were no strangers to adversity. They had courted it all their lives. By nightfall, Greek defenders inventoried the cost of valour. The fallen, friends and allies, Spartans and Thespians, lay strewn over the soil they swore to uphold. Yet, the price of courage fortified those alive, fueling unyielding resolve to persevere. Flickering fires cast shadows across the encampment, spectral dancers whispering tales of bravery into the night's embrace. Amid loss and resilience, they prepared for another day of struggle. The battlefield, sacred with their comrades' memory, became a monument to lives willingly surrendered for freedom's debt. As dawn crept again over blood-soaked ground, the Greek forces set themselves not merely to survive, but to fill their clash with honour and defiance, destined to resonate through time. Spears gleamed in the morning light, silent promises of a stand that defied fate and destiny, inscribing itself into eternity. Here was a defiance beyond war, a challenge to fate, a heartbeat that would race forever against the chains of destiny. Thus each phalanx became a declaration of defiance, as though etching their legend into time. As dawn heralded the second day of battle, the air around Thermopylae thickened with anticipation. Xerxes summoned his immortals, the elite force of the Persian Empire, whose name itself conjured an ominous, everlasting presence. Consistently maintained at precisely 10,000 soldiers, these warriors were more than Persian might. They were its heart, trained to strike fear with swift precision. Shimmering in intricately designed armour that whispered tales of distant battles, they moved like an unyielding tide, the sound of their march resonating through the narrow pass like the ominous lull before a storm. Leonidas, king of Sparta, remained unperturbed by the approach of this celebrated force. The tales of invincibility that surrounded the immortals were well known, but the Spartan psyche did not bend to fear, only to strategy. For them, courage was not an abstraction but a way of life, nurtured through the relentless rigours of the agouge that moulded Spartan boys into warriors. Calmly they prepared, quaffing their hair and polishing their weapons, rituals of defiance against the ultimate trial awaiting them. Facing the tide of Persian might, they embodied an uncanny resolve, ready to meet destiny with stoic grace. The clash began with a suffocating silence, broken only by the rising cadence of weapons meeting shields, the chorus of war echoing through the stone corridors. The immortals, trained archers and spearmen alike, advanced with ruthless synchronization, yet they met the unyielding wall of the Spartan phalanx, a formation known less for its size than for its steadfast unity. The air thickened with the dust swirled by countless charging feet, and through this haze, the Spartans pushed back with disciplined force. Bronze meets bronze, each Spartan spear strategically finding its mark as their collective might rebuffed the Persian advance, turning fierce charges into retreats. True to tradition, it was not individual prowess but cohesive, tactical brilliance that defined the Greek defence. The Spartan phalanx acted as a single, indomitable entity, guided by the silent understanding honed over years of relentless training. Their formation held, weathering the onslaught with rotations of fresh warriors that defied exhaustion and attrition, all in the confines of the narrow pass that confined Persian numbers and favoured the Spartan strategy. Each Spartan, from the youngest to the veterans, seamlessly played his part in this deadly dance, where the land itself seemed to rebel against the foreign invaders. Xerxes, witnessing from afar, grappled with disbelief as his immortals faltered. In his robes of silk and surrounded by opulence, the incongruity of failure was sharp, a stark contrast to the immediacy of combat release below. Used to swift conquests, he found himself pondering the unthinkable, a small, determined group resisting the full might of his legions. In the shadows of his throne, calculations reigned, searching for a new fulcrum to turn battle's tide. Yet here unfolded a rare spectacle, one where valour clashed with cunning, and neither yielded easily. Meanwhile, Spartan strategy spread its roots deeper into the psychological terrain of warfare. Leonidas understood well that breaking the will of the immortals could eclipse mere physical defeat. The drawn-out standoff was not merely a battle of flesh and metal, but a war on a psyche, assailed by the relentless and unwavering Greek defence. Achieving victory was not just about expending enemy lives, but unravelling their legendary aura, one encounter at a time. At the front line stood Leonidas, no mere figurehead, but a living embodiment of Spartan resilience. With each strike and command, he grounded his troops in purpose and heritage. A living spearhead that pierced both the advancing ranks and their morale. As day waned, the immortals' impression of invincibility dissolved under the repeated defiance they encountered, with Leonidas' spirit fortifying every Greek at his side, forging morale from sacrifice and the bonds of shared fate. The phalanx stood not just as a formation but as a statement, a legacy of form and function, where each shield protected the next, and each soldier trusted his neighbour with the sanctity of their line. The immortals, long unaccustomed to such a formidable front, found an opponent worthy of their reputation, one that not only resisted, but redefined the conflict through shared courage and indomitable will. As dusk settled, realization encircled the immortals, a lesson harshly learned against Spartan resolve. Numbers and skill folded beneath strategy, intertwined with an unyielding ethos, imparting a lesson that would echo through the echelons of history. The immortals found themselves gazing at a new horizon of power, one crafted not by imperial decree but by sheer resilience, embodied by men who stood by ancient laws and the earth that constrained their enemies. Thermopylae was etched into time not merely as a battleground, but as a testament to enduring human spirit against unfathomable odds. It was an engagement that transcended its immediate struggle, whispering lessons through the ages. The tale of Leonidas and his men burgeoned into a saga of defiance, adeptly woven into the intricate fabric of history, as future generations would regard it as both a philosophical reflection and a recounting of courage unfettered by fear. Under the cloak of night, the Greek camp at Thermopylae settled into an uneasy quiet. The warriors, seasoned by rigorous Spartan training and recent battles, faced the deeper silence that came with anticipating their uncertain fate. Shadows crept in, enveloping their world as the night chorus of the wild began its symphony. Around flickering campfires, the men shared stories and the last of their meagre rations. Despite the oppressive night, their determination didn't waver, painting their courage across weary faces in the starlit gloom. Leonidas moved purposefully among his men, offering quiet words of encouragement. His presence reassured them, easing the tight grip of fear. Yet the mountains harboured secrets, a hidden path that remained unknown, waiting to change the course of their stand. One man, Ephialtes, held knowledge of this path, leading him on a path of treachery. Dissatisfied with his lot and nursing dreams of unfulfilled glory, Ephialtes decided to betray his homeland for personal gain. Driven by resentment and a lust for recognition, he sought out the Persian camp, offering the tactical edge only he possessed. His knowledge was alluring to the Persians, a shift granting them moral and strategic prowess. Ephialtes led Persian scouts through the dense, treacherous terrain under the cover of darkness. This narrow, winding goat trail clung to the mountain's edge, known to few and guarded by none. Darkness wrapped around the trespassers, as the forest seemed to conspire in uneasy silence. Nature itself seemed complicit in their quiet passage. As the Persian soldiers advanced along this hidden route, dawn's light approached steadily, promising a grim sunrise over Greek hopes. At daybreak, the bitter news of betrayal reached Leonidas. A scout, breathless and urgent, delivered the message of Ephialtes' treachery. Horror and disbelief swept through the camp as the reality of their vulnerable position sank in. Leonidas remained composed, embodying the calm resolve of a Spartan king. He convened his allies, informing them of their grim predicament. The notion of sacrifice resonated strongly, framed as both duty and honour. Leonidas's words imbued the moment with steely acceptance and a call to courage that would echo through history. Realising the inevitability of their situation, Leonidas made the difficult decision to dismiss the non-Spartan forces. Though eager to stand alongside him, the allies understood the necessity of preserving Greece's overall defence. Leonidas's decision wasn't seen as a retreat. It was a tactical move to safeguard the greater good. The allies' departure was heavy with mixed emotions, admiration mixed with the sorrow of leaving brothers behind. For those who remained, their purpose crystallised, to stand firm in defiance, to embody a legacy of honour. The remaining Spartans, fueled by a deeper resolve, embraced their grim fate. Each heartbeat echoed with the rhythm of defiance, reinforcing the Spartan ethos. They weren't driven by reckless abandon, but by a calculated stand against overwhelming odds. As dawn approached, these warriors became living testaments to valour and honour. The bonds among them tightened, creating a singular force rooted in brotherhood and sacrifice. Their stand would not be a dirge but a clarion call to future generations, a legend born from blood and unwavering resolve. With the Persian advantage now solidified, soldiers began to infiltrate from the mountainside, exploiting the breach Ephialtes had revealed. This strategic surprise filled the Greeks with a sense of inevitability, akin to an approaching flood. Leonidas faced this looming threat with steadfast calm, fortified by the loyalty of his men. The path exposed by Ephialtes was never meant to honour Persia, but to test the mettle of Sparta's finest. In these final moments, with the certainty of their fate looming, the Spartans prepared for their last stand. Farewells, both tender and resolute, infused the morning air with poignant gravity. To these men, death was not feared, but embraced as release from a life bound by duty. They stood embodying the Spartan ideal, hardened yet human, resolute yet humble, understanding that their sacrifice formed part of a greater narrative. Leonidas meticulously planned not for victory, but for a legacy. The Spartan phalanx stood as more than a line of defence. It was an impregnable wall of human spirit. The Greeks were acutely aware that their sacrifice wouldn't result in triumph, but their spirit would endure beyond the confines of mortality. As they faced the Persian onslaught, their defiance would become a beacon of inspiration, shining through the annals of time long after the dust of battle had settled. As the day broke over Thermopylae, the Spartans found themselves on the precipice of legend. They stood not just as warriors, but as stewards of a grand ideal, an immortal testament to human resilience. In facing their doom, they achieved a form of eternity. By confronting the encroaching tide with unwavering spirit, they defined a narrative that would echo down the corridors of history, turning Thermopylae into not just a place, but a symbol of noble defiance. As the first light of dawn touches the horizon, the morning air around Thermopylae is thick with the remnants of previous battles, the ground damp with sweat and blood. For Leonidas and his Spartan warriors, this sunrise is not a mere beginning, but a prelude to their last stand, shadowed by the betrayal that has sealed their fate. Yet among the sombre reality of the approaching end, the Spartans exhibit unyielding resolve. Leonidas stands amidst his men, his calm presence a beacon of courage. Armoured bodies move with a disciplined rhythm, each warrior preparing for the confrontation that awaits, each gesture bespeaking camaraderie and determination. Their defiance is more than a duty. It is an embodiment of their values: honour, sacrifice, duty. The Persians gather anew as daylight breaks, their numbers a massive tidal wave set to engulf the grit of the defiant Greeks. From across the plain, the low rumble of marching feet fills the air, signalling the approaching juggernaut commanded by Xerxes. Their vast array of armour and banners obscures the morning sky as they advance, an awe-inspiring and terrifying spectacle. But for Leonidas and his men, this is the fateful moment they have eagerly awaited, ready to meet the Persian onslaught head-on. The Greeks brace themselves with a focus sharpened by the gravity of their task. The narrow pass will be their contrivance, creating a choke point to hold back Persia's might, with each thrust and parry forming the narrative of freedom's defence. The Persian tide surges forward, exploding into the air with a cacophony of war, clashing with the disciplined cruelty of Spartan arms. Each Spartan, seasoned by the rigours of war, transforms into a fortress of resistance, their phalanx an insurmountable wall of shield and spear. The Greeks move as one, a deadly dance countering each advance with the calculated precision of warriors forged in the fires of the Agoge. Leonidas fights at the front line, embodying Spartan valour, an inspiration rooted in ancient lore. Clad in red cloaks and polished helms, the Spartans are a sight to behold, holding their ground amidst the chaos, their ferocity unmatched, even as the odds mount against them. Yet, as the hours stretch relentlessly onward, the Greek defences begin to strain under the ceaseless onslaught. Persian soldiers probe for weaknesses, exhausting the defenders, leading to broken spears and shattered shields. Each fragmented weapon is a stark reminder of their dwindling time. Amidst the battlefield chaos, Leonidas remains resolute, adapting to fight with whatever is left: a sword, a bare hand. Even as their armour strips away, the Spartans deliver a devastating toll on the Persian ranks, retreating strategically as predators awaiting their moment, their resolve never dimmed by the swords and threats that surround them. In the swirling maelstrom of combat, Leonidas shines as a paragon of resolve, his presence an anchor to his men. The Persian juggernaut, though numerically superior, finds its force blunted by the king's audacity and tangible presence. Yet destiny cannot be denied. Leonidas, the living embodiment of Spartan endurance, is felled by a deadly spear, his fall a shock to his warriors. With their leader's death, the Spartans rally around his lifeless form, refusing to let the enemy defile him. The battlefield hums with renewed vigour, tributary to the courage of a fallen king, enshrined now as legend, even as the fury of combat continues unabated. Even with the fall of their king, the Spartans do not waver, standing firm in the face of an inevitable end. They know their purpose transcends survival. In an act of desperation clapboarded with valour, they hold their ground, each for a dying breath, ensuring that their sacrifice becomes an enduring testament to their homeland. Swords and spears now gone, the spirit of defiance remains undiminished, transforming their fight into a brutal game of attrition against overwhelming numbers. The battlefield is tattered with their legacy, their bodies a bulwark against Persian conquest. Desperation measures time in halting sobs, seeking not merely to claim victory, but to extinguish the very spirit of Greek defiance. Xerxes orders his archers. The sky darkens with arrows, a lethal rain descending to blot out resistance's last embers. Underneath their shields, the remaining warriors grip their weapons, defiance held tightly in open hands. Courage flares with each fall of a comrade, as the Spartan defiance remains unbroken in the storm of arrows. Each fighter, confronting the mortal embrace of fate, injects into silent ether the spirit of their stand, as their sacrifice becomes an enduring conferral to history. When battle's din subsides and the shroud of dusk falls over Thermopylae, the clamour of war gives way to silence. The field, once teeming with frenzied fighting, now holds still with the peace of the fallen. Amidst them lies Leonidas and his band of valiant brothers, bodies strewn in testament to their courage. For the survivors, the silence speaks of their mourning and their victory. It is in this tranquility that the profound impact of the defenders' sacrifice is keenly felt. Their legacy transcends the physical limits of battle, arming Greece with renewed resolve to contest and resist, drawing from an eternal flame ignited by Spartan valour. Though Leonidas has fallen, his legacy endures, a pervasive legend spooling through time. The mythos of his defiance and his men's unyielding bravery becomes a universal anthem, echoed in lands far beyond the Hellenic world. Each story spun from Thermopylae's sacrifice bears seeds of rebellion and resolution, transforming anguish into inspiration. Etched into the conscience of civilization is an epitaph carved into stone. Stranger, go tell the Spartans that we lie here, obedient to their laws. Such words resonate forever, a remembrance of resilience and hope that thrives against the tide of history's relentless advance, capturing the essence of human defiance. The battlefield lies in eerie silence, a sombre landscape where the echoes of warfare have faded with the setting sun. The corpses of Spartans and their allies rest where they fell, a testament to unyielding courage in the face of insurmountable odds. The air carries the metallic scent of iron amidst the whispers of the wind, which seems a gentle requiem for those who perished at Thermopylae. Bronze weapons scattered across rocky terrain catch the dying light, casting a final homage to those who fought in defiance. Amidst this tableau of sacrifice, Persian soldiers tread cautiously, as if the spirits of the fallen might still rise in contempt of their conquerors. The grim scene is a humbling reminder that victory's cost transcends mere numbers. Xerxes, observing from his vantage point, commands that the body of Leonidas be found. This act of desecration is meant to echo across Greece as both a warning of Persian might and a demonstration of Xerxes' intolerance for defiance. Within this command lies a complex admixture of satisfaction and incompletion. For Xerxes knows, even in their death, the Spartans have claimed a narrative triumph. Xerxes, seated amidst his advisors, reflects on his victory with mixed emotions. The triumph over these formidable foes feels as bitter as it is sweet, a Pyrrhic victory tainted by the immovable spirit of those who opposed him. The order to impale Leonidas' head is given, an intended symbol of dominance. Yet, within his ranks there murmurs an unintended respect for the fallen king. Remnants of this admiration ripple through the Persian soldiers, who understand that, while victors today, they have faced a force that defies simple conquest by might alone. Across Greece, the news of this loss travels swiftly, fanning both fear and a steely resolve to resist. From Athens to Thebes and Corinth, city-states grapple with the realization the time to unite or face obliteration has arrived. The grim fate of Thermopylae shapes not a path of despair, but one of determination. The Greeks, though in strategic retreat, carry within them a renewed purpose, their steps grounded in the awareness that their actions can forge a bulwark against Persian domination. A fervour ignites across the land, inspired by the valour witnessed at Thermopylae. The tale spreads with the urgency of a sacred hymn, igniting passions among free men and women. This sacrifice has unshackled a deep-seated fear of Persian oppression, replacing it with a burning desire for vengeance. Within the disciplined walls of Sparta, the same quiet fury bubbles beneath their stoic exterior, a vow to honour the sacrifice through unwavering resistance. In this tumultuous aftermath, a visionary leader emerges in Athens, Themistocles. His quicksilver mind envisions a strategic pivot, shifting the Greek advantage to the sea. Athens, with its naval prowess, holds the key to turning defence into offence. Themistocles' insights coalesce into words that stir his compatriots. Then, walls of stone were insufficient. Today, the future lies on walls of wood. The sea will be where Greece meets its rivals, where the tides of war can shift in its favour. Leonidas' death plants seeds far beyond the immediate battlefield. His legend, now taking root across Greece, is shaped by storytellers and sculptors, immortalising the plain truths of valour. His and his warriors' deeds whirl into the cultural consciousness, establishing a narrative that resonates deeply. This story, transcending mere history, blossoms into a myth that propels generations forward with lessons of resistance and grit. For the Persians, the triumph at Thermopylae is a double-edged sword. Across their ranks there is a rumination on victory's true cost. The steadfastness of Spartan resistance whispers of challenges yet to come, turning the narrative from one of dominance to one of foreboding. Persian soldiers, seasoned by campaigns yet stirred by the Spartans' example, know this will only galvanise their adversaries' resolve. As Persian forces push deeper into Greek territory, the legacy of Thermopylae unfurls far beyond the physical battlefield. Leonidas has unwittingly sown a tale of unity amongst the Greek city-states, presenting a common cause to stave off conquest. The unity kindled here transcends Thermopylae's loss, imprinting upon Greek consciousness a determination to resist subjugation. As strategic insight melds with courage, Thermopylae morphs from battlefield to a pivotal moment in Greek strategy. Athens adopts the lesson imparted by the Spartan sacrifice. Strategic cunning, paired with resolve, can yield triumph over brawn. Their engagement forms the cornerstone for future battles, where mind matches muscle, turning defiance into victorious prowess. In closing, the tale of Leonidas and his 300 men survives, transcending its time to speak of sacrifices woven into the core of human spirit. Though outnumbered, their stand at Thermopylae endures not merely as a fruitless endeavour, but as a symbol of the resilience that has inspired resistance across ages. The narrative thus comes full circle, from ashes to a perpetual flame within the hearts of mankind. On the morning after the lunar eclipse painted the battlefield with ghostly hues, Thermopylae stood eerily silent. The ground lay witness to the sacrifice of the 300 Spartans. Xerxes wandered among the fallen, seeking to obliterate their memory by mutilating Leonidas's body. Yet the spirit of resistance prevailed. The stones among which the men lay seemed to vibrate with whispers of courage and defiance. Stoic inscriptions etched on stone immortalized their story. "Stranger, go tell the Spartans that we lie here, obedient to their laws." These words echoed through Greece, galvanizing it into unity against the Persian Leviathan. As tales of heroism spread like wildfire through the city-states, the Greeks began to see Thermopylae not as a defeat, but as a call to arms. The legend of Leonidas and his men, carved into the stone and hearts alike, fostered a fragile yet potent unity among the Greeks. The message they left behind was not just a memorial, it was a rallying cry. Inspired by the unyielding valour of the 300, the city-states forged alliances, weaving together a tapestry of resistance that turned Greek fear into a resolute defiance. This newfound unity was as delicate as the rustling autumn leaves, but held strong enough to withstand the might of the Persian onslaught. Cities that had clashed for centuries found common ground in the shared loss and hope inspired by Thermopylae. Leaders gathered in forums, their voices slicing through the air with tales of Spartan resolve, urging even age-old rivals to tread a path of survival stitched by shared resolve. Their stand was not in vain. It implanted courage deep within their sovereign souls. It was this spirit, this remembrance, that fueled the Greeks to pool resources, forge pacts, and turn the tide against their oppressors. In the aftermath, Thermopylae transcended its identity as just a battleground to become a mythic symbol. Artists and storytellers seized this narrative, immortalizing the Spartan legacy through bronze sculptures and poetry. It was a tale of sacrifice embraced as glory, an inspiration etched into oral traditions to preserve their deeds for eternity. As these stories spread, they became more than a historic testament. They were woven into the cultural DNA of Greece, resonating with subsequent generations as a lesson in sacrifice and unity. The military strategies born from this crucible of battle transformed Greek warfare. The Spartans' phalanx, with its disciplined and coherent formation, and the Athenian navy, nimble and cunning, adapted their tactics in future confrontations. The creativity required to face a numerically superior foe, learned at Thermopylae, informed future battles such as Salamis, where the intelligence of Greek strategy shone against Persian might. Here the Greeks learned that war was not solely about brute force, but superior tactics and mastery of terrain. Throughout time, the inscription at Thermopylae stood resilient, bearing witness to the enduring spirit of the Spartans. The stark, simple message became a timeless beacon of courage, carved into stone. It survived the whims of time, serving as both a lamentation for the fallen and a celebration of their honour. This testament to fidelity won a place in hearts and minds, becoming a rallying point against not just Persia's threats, but any future oppression. The cultural ripples of Spartan sacrifice extended beyond Greece. The ethos of discipline and stoicism began to infiltrate discussions of governance and ethics across regions, with many admiring Sparta's societal dedication. Beyond mere politics, Spartan ideals were absorbed into literature and philosophy, shaping intellectual thought. Eminent thinkers like Xenophon examined Spartan ideals, synthesizing them into broader Hellenistic discussions on governance and society. Even in our modern world, the memory of Thermopylae resonates. It retains its clarity, influencing military schools and informing strategies with its lessons of improvisation and courage. Across varied educational systems, the Spartan example of self-sacrifice serves to inspire, taking on new meanings in contemporary contexts. Its legacy remains a powerful call to unity through adversity, a manifesto to bind where divisions seem inevitable. The impact of Thermopylae reaches individuals across time, transcending national and cultural boundaries. Even Persian accounts penned in regret acknowledge the uncanny kinship forged among the Spartans. Their defiance struck a chord beyond conventional monarchical narratives, inspiring Persian introspection. As Greek chroniclers documented these events, their accounts became intimate reflections spread far and wide, offering glimpses into personal courage and enduring humanity. In the end, Thermopylae is suspended between myth and reality, its truths living on in various retellings. The tale is reimagined in visual and literary art, reviving Spartan valour within the fabric of modern narratives. Cinematic depictions and literary reinterpretations breathe life into these ancient heroes, connecting them to today's audiences. Thermopylae continues to inspire, its legacy an enduring flame against life's adversities. This is the legacy of Thermopylae, a timeless narrative of valour and unity that transcends the ages. It whispers to us the ancient truths of courage and resilience, enfolding them in the stories we tell and write even today. If you've been captivated by this tale of sacrifice and strength, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more fascinating stories from the rich tapestry of ancient history.